Back in 2019, I did this segment where we spoke about accidental sellers, people who got into sales by accident. And then we started focusing on some of the best sellers in history. One of the individuals we focused on the bestseller in history series was Oprah Winfrey. Now, Oprah obviously wasn't on our podcast, but we highlighted her and told a story about why she was one of the best salespeople in history. I think you're going to like it. Well, today is the final day of the Bestseller in History series. We are featuring today one of the most influential individuals in our century. This individual is not only known amongst the African American community, but known worldwide amongst all race, creed, and people. This individual is definitely one of the best sellers in history because this individual not only created something for herself, but also created something for her family, for her friends, and millions of individuals throughout the world. This individual is worth over $3.5 billion. That's with a B. But this individual also started from nothing. How do you come from nothing, absolutely dirt poor, to create such a huge, influential empire? To have such a huge net worth and to have such a huge amount of influence? Well, that person is Oprah Winfrey. And today we're going to break down her story and define what makes her such a great seller. This episode is brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. It's a course that I designed personally to focus on helping your sales rep close more deals. If you want to find out more about it, to check it out, simply go to thesalesevangelist.com/course. This episode is also brought to you in part by Audible. Get one free audiobook of your choice and a 30-day free trial of Audible. Simply go to audibletrial.com/TSE. Again, audibletrial.com/TSE. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And today's the final episode of the series, The Bestseller in History. Now, as you've been following this series, you probably realize that we've done some amazing episodes with about some remarkable individuals, from Jesus Christ to Gandhi, Mother Teresa. We've had folks such as Martin Luther King. And now today we're completing the capstone on one of the most influential, successful, best salespeople you can find throughout history. And that is none other than Miss Oprah Winfrey. With each of these episodes where we've highlighted someone, you've seen the pattern so far. We take that individual, we do some research on them, we identify some points that prove they were a great seller. Then we tell a story that ties back to that point, and then we give a B2B application. For Oprah, as I've mentioned, we have identified 5 things. But before we dive into those 5 things, I want to give you a brief background on Oprah. Oprah was born on January 29th, 1954. Her parents were Vernonita Lee and Vernon Winfrey. Now, Oprah's name when she was born was Orpah, O-R-P-H. It was a name from the Bible. This was given to her by one of her aunts. However, because she grew up in such a humble circumstance with some people who weren't too educated in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, people didn't know how to pronounce her name. So they moved around the R and the P, and that's how Oprah was developed. That's the name she went by, and that's the name she has now. Oprah's parents were not married, and her mom was in the teenage years when Oprah was born. So Oprah was then raised by her grandmother on the farm. As a child, Oprah entertained herself by play acting in front of the audience. And actually, the audience was mostly consisting of farm animals. When she was 2 years old, she had her first ever major speaking gig. Yeah, it was in front of the congregation at church, and she got up and spoke about when Jesus rose on Easter Sunday. This made her feel, it made her feel that this is something she could do. And here's the reason why. People in the congregation, some of the sisters in the church would turn to her grandmother in the front row and said, child, your grandbaby, she is talented. She is gifted. She's going to be somebody. Oprah heard this over and over and over again, and she believed it. She started to feel that, yeah, I could be someone. Growing up with her grandmother, Oprah was really smart. Her grandmother was very strict, and she encouraged her to read. She forced her to make sure she learned to read by the time she was 3 years old. That's significant. I mean, Oprah was so confident when she went to kindergarten. She wrote a letter to her teacher telling her teacher that I deserve to be in the first grade. And guess what happened? Yeah, she got to go to the first grade. A year after that, they skipped her up to the third grade. When Oprah turned 6, however, she moved north to Milwaukee in the ghettos with her mother. Oprah lived in some poor and some very dangerous circumstances. But the thing about when you're growing up poor and in dangerous circumstances and you realize that everybody has the same poor and dangerous circumstances, you don't think anything is wrong. And she didn't think that it was so bad. She just kept moving on and living and enjoying life. When she was 12, Oprah went to live with her father in Nashville, Tennessee. And feeling secure and happy for a brief moment, she began making speeches at social gatherings and churches. And at one time, she earned $500 for a speech. At that moment, Oprah knew then that she wanted to do something where she could become an orator, where she could receive payment for speaking. Shortly or not too long after that, Oprah went back to live with her mother. And in the circumstances where her mom was living, it was the opposite of her father's situation. She wasn't secure. She wasn't safe. She was in the urban lifestyle with a negative environment. And this started having an effect on young Oprah. She was becoming disobedient and problematic to her mother. She talked about once how she even faked a break-in and lied to her mother about it and went to the hospital and this whole thing. But she never ever once lied to her father because she knew that he wasn't going to put up with that mess. But these things started to compound upon Oprah. And one of the things that made this a little bit more, started to affect her was that when she was 9 years old, she was repeatedly sexually abused by men that she knew. One of them was a close family friend. Another one was by family relatives. And what typically happens with people when they're sexually abused, they start to believe that it was their fault. This eventually led to Oprah having an early pregnancy, and she lost the baby. I think she was around 13 or 14. She was sent back home to be with her dad again in Nashville. Her dad told her, Oprah, this is your second chance. You've been given a second chance. Don't waste it. Going back into his household, she had the structure that she needed once again. She said that she craved the attention, and that's what her father was able to give. He had the structure established in the home. She had to do her schoolwork. She had to do all of these things. One of the things that he told her that I thought was profound was that she was bringing home these C's, and he told her, you're not a C student. You don't bring C's home into this house. If you were a C student, then that would be fine. But you're an A student, so I don't want nothing less than an A. So what did Oprah do? She started to produce and started to bring home A's. What was the difference between that and living in Milwaukee with her mother? It was the structure and the expectation. Oprah became an excellent student, participating as well in the drama club, debate club, and student council. Scholarship to Tennessee State University. The following year, she was invited to a White House conference on youth. Winfrey was crowned Miss Fire Prevention by WVOL, a local Nashville radio station. That was pretty awesome because Oprah was saying, listen, I knew I wasn't going to win. There was all these little white girls with red hair, and I was the only black girl standing out, and I just spoke and was normal. Oprah spoke about how these girls were saying if they were to get $1 million, because that's one of the questions, how they would buy their father this and buy him a motorcycle and this stuff and a house. And Oprah said, if I had $1 million, I would be going out and shopping. I would be spending it. Because again, she realized that I'm not going to win, so I'm just going to do whatever. But lo and behold, she actually won because she was down to earth. She was normal. Oprah then later on was able to study journalism. She went into work for some couple radio stations. From those radio stations, she eventually was discovered, people heard her on the radio and then brought her in to actually do TV stuff. And she started doing anchoring positions and eventually the talk show till she went to develop her own show, became Oprah Winfrey and made an empire. But how? Someone coming from such a humble circumstance, somebody coming from such unfortunate situations, things that happened to her as a kid would break people and give them a trajectory, a path that they would go down that would never ever lead to the life that she had. How was she able to win over audiences and to become known as the iconic individual worldwide as Oprah Winfrey. Today, we're going to break down 5 principles that we feel that made Oprah do this. We feel that she was a great salesperson. And those 5 things are, first, she was relatable and knew how to build relationships. The key was being vulnerable. Number 2, she was creative and willing to act in difficult circumstances. Number 3, she worked hard. Number 4, she thought big and she pushed herself. And number 5, she is selfless. For anyone who knows Oprah, you know that she is pretty much an open book. And she talks about this in one of the interviews that I watched while we were doing a research for this. Oprah mentioned how she loves the fact that, or wants people to know what's going on in her life. She wants to be an open book. She wants people to be able to see these things and to be able to connect with her. Now, this is a mark of a great salesperson. I'm going to tell you about that as we go on. But here's what happened with Oprah. She didn't start off this way, though. When Oprah first got in the industry, what she wanted to do was to be like Barbara Walters. She was mimicking Barbara Walters. She was speaking like Barbara Walters. She was doing everything like Barbara Walters. She wanted to be so perfect. But then one day something happened that was a little bit different. She was reporting on a story and there were all these names, something with the UN. So all these names of these countries and these individuals, and she's reading them off. And she does a pretty darn good job of reading and being able to read anything on a set because she's just Oprah. She's fantastic at performing. But then after pronouncing all of these weird names, all of a sudden one popped up and it was Canada. Yeah, that's what she said on the air. She said Canada. And then she caught herself and was like, oh, there's no place named Canada. I'm sorry, that meant Canada. And she felt like, this wasn't the end of the world. The producers, on the other hand, they were like, well, if you mess up, don't say anything about it. Just keep moving on. But Oprah wasn't like that. She was making fun of herself and just being vulnerable in that situation. She was being relatable because how many of us could have made that mistake? Any of us. We're human beings. And that's one of the things that helped her to trigger to realize, you know what? I need to stop trying to be perfect like everybody else. I come into this industry and we see all of these anchors and all of these speakers and you think they're just all so perfectly polished and we need to be exactly like that. And that's why she had a tough time with TV, or they had a tough time with her, because she was being real. She would go on the scene of like fires and visit with the family, and the producers would expect her to come back with this fantastic story or this fantastic interview with the family. But because she see these people just lost their home or just lost a family member, a loved one, and she had empathy for them and said, I can't do an interview with them right now. Her company or the media producers were upset because she didn't push these individuals, but she was like, no, they're human beings. Right now they're grieving. I can't go and ask them to talk or comment on why your house burned down and not have emotion. It was a hard thing for Oprah to do, and that's why she was always pushing against the status quo, and they didn't like that too much. But Oprah said something when I was watching one of the stories on her. She said, I don't get embarrassed easily. Or I don't get embarrassed at all anymore because of the situation with the whole Canada story. She said, you know what, listen, everyone is going to mess up. If it's, for instance, if it's like, her bra strap is showing or her slip is showing or her slip falls down, she said, it doesn't matter. Somebody had a situation like this already and the world pretty much didn't end. Nothing bad ever happened. So if that's the case and if it happened to them, then why should I even worry? And she said that doesn't affect her. She didn't have that fear of embarrassment. And because she didn't have that fear, she was able to do whatever she needed to do. She was vulnerable. The definition of the word vulnerable is susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm. And because she was willing to do that, she became connected to individuals because people could relate to her. Someone who's in her role was supposed to be, like the industry said, perfect and articulate. But when you can see someone who is supposed to be like this, being human and making mistakes, you're like, oh, well, I shouldn't be too hard on myself. And that pulled a lot of people to want to listen to Oprah, wanted to hear from her. Oprah said one of the things that she hid for years, was a story about being sexually abused as a child. Someone who was close to her actually broke that story. And Oprah just thought that she had to be perfect, like, again, this perfect news anchor, and couldn't have a bad past or anything wrong, just flawless. And she hid that stuff. But after that family member came out and told that story, she said she was grateful because that took something off of her chest, and that person thought they were trying to embarrass her. It actually did something really good for Oprah because Oprah was able to accept that and to own it, and then was able to share what happened and share her story. And then other people were able to relate to her. She was able to help so many individuals. At this time, being so open with that and sharing this and getting this off of her chest, that put Oprah in a whole nother category. people now felt that they knew her on a different level. She wasn't an anchor. She wasn't a TV host. She was Oprah. She was someone that had troubles. She had difficulty. She was like me, and I wanted to hear more of her. As a B2B sales rep, I think sometimes we feel that we have to be perfect. And I'll give you an example because I fell in the same situation when I first became a sales rep. I thought you had to know all the answers. You had to be perfect in everything you say. You got to look a certain way. I mean, I've talked about this and I wrote about it in my book. And the idea behind it, though, is just you're thinking you're being watched. And if you mess up, the buyer is going to say they don't want to do business with you anymore. But here's what I learned. If you don't know the answer to something and you try to fake it, the buyer is going to know it. And they are not going to trust you because they're going to know you're lying when you tell them the bogus answer. Or you make up an answer or what you think is the right answer. Nobody has confidence in you in such situations or circumstances like that. So here's what you do. Here's what I learned that I was supposed to do. Tell them you just don't know. Tell them you don't know, but you're going to research or you're going to go back and you're going to find the answer. They might say, well, Donald, does this software work with this particular operating system? Maybe I don't know the technical answer behind that. You know, Dave, I don't know that and I don't want to lie to you. Let me go ahead and check with my IT folks and I'll get back to you. Is that okay if I send you an email with that answer? Dave doesn't care if you know. Dave just want to make sure he's making the right decision. So of course, he wouldn't mind if you send him the right answer later on in the day. It's not going to be the end of the world. We have to learn to be vulnerable. Tell people sometimes you don't know. People need to see that you are a human being as well. You need to go to their level. You need to be relatable. You don't have to sit on a pedestal. You don't have to be perfect. Your hair doesn't have to be perfect every single day. You don't have to dress amazing every single day. You can have mess up. You're a human being. You get that. You have a pass. What we don't like is when you're fake. Be you. Be true to yourself. That's one of the things that I try to do a lot with the podcast here. I try to make sure I tell my story. I try to make sure that you can connect with me as an individual. And when I talk to you, whether you call me or you send us a LinkedIn message and I'm able to connect with you, that's what people have shared. And I strive to do that because I don't want to present to you someone that I'm not. I want to be true to myself. I want to be true to you. I want to help you. I want you to succeed. And if you can do that, you're going to build rock solid relationships with people. And people will remember that. I love the quote by Maya Angelou, and it said, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. People will never forget how you make them feel. How are you making your prospects feel? Are they feeling that connection to you? If not, take a chapter from Oprah's book and connect. Be one with your buyers. Become their friend. Be human. Number 2, Oprah was creative and willing to act. At one point in her career, Oprah got a demotion. She was taken off of the main anchor position, the main role on one of these early morning or these morning talk show or morning show. And it was, nobody wants to get demoted. Nobody wants to start at the top and then all of a sudden get tossed down to a lower level. It's like being a manager and then next thing you know, you go back down to being a sales rep because they say you suck at being a manager. So we're going to put you back down. You want to keep rising. You want to keep going forward. Same idea. Oprah was then given this other task. She had a 5-minute slot during the early morning hours, the 5:30 show. She had 5 minutes. Well, it turns out, obviously, the timing sucks. It was early morning. And the second thing was that it wasn't doing well, this little spot that they gave her. But in the traditional Oprah fashion, Oprah took this position. She dove in head first. She didn't know what this position, this spot was all about. Turns out it was cooking, this little cooking show. And Oprah didn't cook. She didn't like to cook at the time, but she took on this role and did this. And she was creative. She brought on, awesome guests. She did awesome recipes. She took it and made it from something that was crap to something that was amazing. And that's because of her creativeness. You don't have to sit back and complain. And many people could have and said, well, they put me in this situation where I can't win. They gave me something horrible that's not going to work. This is not fair. They want me to quit. They're trying to push me out. So I'm just going to go leave and go find something else. Oprah turned that program around. The B2B application, I'm sure you heard it already. You're listening to this episode and you're probably putting your own self in that situation where you receive this horrible territory. Nobody sells in this territory. There's nothing. It's dead. Or that's the story that's been passed down. Or perhaps maybe it's not as fruitful as the top territories in your organization. Maybe you're a sales leader and you inherited a team that doesn't perform, and this team never performs in your company. So you have bought into that story. You bought into the narrative. It turns out that the people in the position before you just never did crap. So they weren't creative. They didn't look. They didn't hustle. They didn't turn over every rock. They didn't motivate the team. And because this mentality continued, it built a culture of lies. And people believed it. And that's what led to where you are right now. But what if you were able to turn that around? What if you were able to be like Oprah? What if you were able to be creative? What if you looked at it like a diamond, that there was underneath the coal, or underneath the hard, dirty, ugly exterior, inside there's a diamond, and once you clean it off and polish it and fix it up and cut it, it's going to look amazing. That's what you can do, and it's totally possible. And that's why Oprah was such an amazing seller. You could do the same thing too with some of your prospects. I mean, serious, think about this. Maybe you get some account that, this account seems like they're dead. They're not ordering anything. They don't order big deals. They just sit there and coast. Well, it turns out the account executive before you just didn't do hard work. They never went and visited a client. They never went to each department. They never asked the questions. They just sat back and waited for the money or the business to come in. You could be creative. You can make this happen. You can make it work. But it takes you getting out of your comfort zone and making something happen. Imagine if you were to do like what Oprah did in the first point. You were vulnerable with this prospect. You told them, hey, I'm new to the area. I don't know anything, and I really want to learn more about your company. May I come and visit with you and learn about what you guys are doing? May I jump on a call with you to understand some more about your product and your industry? I'm sure those clients would be more than open, more than willing to do that. You go in and you're vulnerable and you share this from your heart and you build strong relationships. And next thing you know, this account starts to become fruitful. And people wonder, what in the world did Jerry just do? How did Jerry resurrect this account? Jerry hustled. Jerry pulled the Oprah. Jerry was creative. Jerry was vulnerable. Jerry built relationships. Jerry worked hard. He was creative. He found some ways to create opportunities that people overlooked. And now that account is worth 3 times what it was before. Number 3, Oprah worked hard. One of the things that people don't know about Oprah, we assume that she was an overnight success at times, that things just happened right away. She just automatically landed in a radio industry. But you got to recognize something. Oprah didn't start speaking in her teenage years. Oprah didn't start speaking in college. She started when she was 2 in the church, and she went up and she gave that little example. She started to speak to her the barnyard animals, started to teach them and started to talk to them. Oprah went even further than that, and she started to memorize poems and read books and started to share all that she was learning with people and those at church. She worked and she hustled. One of the things that I found out about Oprah that it strikes me as like, dang, no wonder why she is who she is. There's an individual named James Weldon Johnson, and he has these sermons. It started from the creation all the way to the end of the Bible. And each of these sermons, Oprah, she memorized every last one of them. She went around all the churches, every church in the city of Nashville at the time, and she gave these sermons. She knew every single church in Nashville. Now, tell me if that's not hustling. Tell me if that's not devotion. She had a desire for what she was doing. She had a passion. She was hungry for it. And because she had this hunger, she had this passion, she had this pride in what she was doing, Oprah worked around the clock. She gave it everything she had. I know what it's like. I'm a speaker as well, and I know what it's like trying to get a gig. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's tough when you haven't made a name in an industry yet for yourself. But imagine Oprah going to all of these different churches and asking them and telling them and hustling behind the scenes and spending weeks and months. And then all of a sudden, the word started to spread about her, and she started to practice her craft and started to practice these sermons. She hustled really hard behind the scenes when people are not watching. That's one of the factors that make her who she is. That's why when she was able to get on a set and she could pick up a script, or she was able to get a read and was able to read it right away without having to do tons of study of it, because she has been preparing for stuff like this her whole life. We as sales reps need to have the same mentality. We need to think the same exact way. The principles of selling needs to be things that you master. You need to master speaking, master articulating yourself. I'm not saying that you need to be flawless like Barbara Walters or any of those individuals, but the concept is that you need to be able to speak. You need to be able to be confident in your conversations. And you don't need to necessarily be confident in everything that you're speaking about. We talked about being vulnerable. But if somebody could see that you're confident in the fact that you don't know and you're willing to show your vulnerability, but you can speak well and articulate yourself and be understood by others, I'm sure they'll give you the leeway on that. They'll be totally fine. I already mentioned that to you. But the key is that you must master the principles beforehand. Master how to ask effective questions. Master how to listen. Master how to research. Master how to look somebody in the eyes. Master how to give firm handshakes. Master how to present. Master your demonstration. Master all of these things so when you do actually get into a game time situation, you don't have to worry about that stuff. You are confident. You have prepared. And yes, you may not know everything, but again, that's fine. We feel you. We feel connected to you. We feel that you're good. We feel that you're a professional, and that's who I want to work with. We're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, I'm going to continue discussing number 4 and 5. Oprah thought big, and she pushed herself, and the fact that she was selfless. I'm going to break down some stories that tie back to that and give you some B2B application. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast. This is a bestseller in history series. We're featuring Oprah Winfrey, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. It's Monday morning and you're going into the team meeting. Everybody's going to talk about their numbers. They're going to share how many deals they closed last week or how many opportunities they had or where their pipeline is. But for the past 3 weeks, heck, for the past month, you haven't had much progress. You are one of the bottom people on a team of 5. Nothing is progressing. Nothing is moving forward. You keep telling yourself that, these things are out of my control. And some of them, they are. One of your prospects left the company. Another one had a merger with another organization, and things are kind of wonky at this point. No matter what you have done, the deals are not moving forward. But imagine if you were able to get some help. Imagine if you were able to go to that meeting every single week, and you had something positive to say about your accounts. The deals were moving forward. And Megan, who is always the top seller, imagine if you could be up there with her and to talk about deals closing. Well, what if I told you we could help you to do that? That's why I created this program called TSC Certified Sales Training Program. And I don't want to hear that you say, yeah, you've been selling for 10 years or 15 years. We can all improve. We can all learn and grow and learn from other people. I want you to check out TSC Certified Sales Training Program. I had to swallow a hard pill and recognize that I needed help when I was in a situation just like what I was explaining to you. Sometimes things were out of my control, but for the most part, there are some things that I just didn't know that I didn't know. And getting the training helped put me and elevate me to a whole nother category. I would love for you to join TSC Certified Sales Training Program. We just started a new semester and you could jump on. We have a couple seats left. However, we will start a new semester in late March. It would be an honor to have you and your team join. The course is only $549. For 8 weeks, you get access to modules and group discussion training. You're going to get the help you need. You're going to have great Monday mornings. You're going to have great meetings. You're going to close more deals. To find out more, go to thesalesevangelist.com/close more deals. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/close more deals. Hey, we're back, and we're discussing the bestseller in history, and this week we're focusing on the one and only Oprah Winfrey. The fourth point that we want to highlight that shows that Oprah is one of the iconic bestsellers is the fact that Oprah thought big and she pushed herself. Here's what I mean. Oprah, as a kid, she wanted to become an actress. She liked the attention. She says this, and I think many of us are in the same boat. We like to be the life of the party, especially sometimes as salespeople. And Oprah wanted to become an actress, but the problem was she got into journalism and began doing news and TV, and that's not being an actress. That's a whole different ballpark, a whole different game. There's a story of when Oprah went to her speaking coach. The organization she worked with put all the anchors through the speaking coach, and she went to her one day and she was talking to her, shooting a breeze, and Oprah told this lady, you know what, I want to be an actress. And this lady said, no, you don't. And Oprah was like, what? No, I do. She's like, if you wanted to be an actress, you would be an actress right now. You're being a TV anchor because that's what you want to do. And she brings up a good point. Sometimes we tell ourselves we want to do something, but we don't do anything to make that happen. This lady, however, did tell Oprah that you need to make a vision for this. If that's what you want to speak it into existence. You want to start doing things that's going to lead you towards that. You need to start acting as if, and not just merely just saying it, just talking it. Oprah put it out into the universe, so to speak, and started to have this thought and started to make this vision and started to do things related towards becoming an actress. There's a book that she read called The Color Purple, and many of you heard about the movie, and obviously Oprah had a role in that. But what you don't know is the backstory. Oprah read this book. She's outgoing, so she started to share this book with everybody, people on the bus, people she met in public, friends and family. She became an evangelist for this story because, one, she could relate to it, and two, she just loved the darn thing. But then something amazing happened. She started to become this person because she felt that it was her. She felt that this story was her story. And then one day, lo and behold, she got a call. And guess who it was? Yep, the one and only Mr. Quincy Jones. And Quincy saw her on TV and said she was the perfect individual to play this role. Oprah, behind the scenes, was saying, yes, I'm the perfect individual to play this role. The fact is, she put it out there. She then act as if and started to become. And lo and behold, when the opportunity came, she had a decision to make. To keep going down the path of being an anchor or to go ahead and chase the dream of becoming an actress. She did that. She conquered, and obviously that led to her being one of the stars in The Color Purple, and later on led to winning awards and all of these amazing things, and became an actress. But she wasn't satisfied there. She started doing her TV show and then eventually bought that show out and created her own production company and started having the Oprah Winfrey show. And then that wasn't enough. Oprah thought bigger. She said she wanted to have her own brand, and then started a book club and started all of these things. And then later on, she said, I don't want to do TV anymore. I want to retire from the daytime TV show, and created a network. And that network is her own network. It started off rough, but that later on, that network grew and grew. And now the woman is worth $3.5 billion. She thought big and she acted. She was willing to push herself. She didn't become complacent at one level. She could have stayed being a radio host, but then the opportunity came to become a TV host. So she went for that. And then she became an anchor. Then she had her TV program. Then she became an actress, and she had this vision and kept pushing and going further and further. And Oprah believes you got to speak something into existence and act as if. And I feel the B2B application to this is that as a sales rep, you got to speak and act. We sometimes, however, say we want to be successful. We want to close the big deals. We want to be the top sales rep, but we don't do the things to close the big deals. We don't do the things to become the top sales reps. We look like a complacent seller. We go to work at 8 and we leave at 5, or it was 9 to 5, whatever time you go to work. We go in to do the bare minimum and we go out because, shoot, I got stuff to do. I got to go watch Netflix. I got to go watch ESPN. I got to go and, go hang out with my buddies and go to the bar. Or I got to go and, go shopping and waste money that I don't have on Amazon. We are doing things that are typical of the stereotypical seller, as opposed to doing the things that are typical or stereotypical of an amazing seller. We're not pushing ourselves. You need to push yourself. Do you have a morning routine? And I'm telling you, sometimes I don't follow my morning routine. I'm not perfect. But the fact is I have one, and I'm striving to be better at it because I know who I want to be. I want to create a podcast empire. I want to create a podcast media empire. And I want to have the biggest and best sales training organization for new and struggling sales rep. I have that vision. I act accordingly, and I do things that make that possible. We're the Sales Podcast Network. But we're evolving that into something else. And I'm not going to tell you guys about that yet. It's in the works. But we're excited for it. But I have vision. I have bigger dreams. I told myself some limiting beliefs that I couldn't do training for a large organization. I'm in discussion with some pretty decent sized companies right now. Again, I can't share the stuff publicly yet, their names, but the fact is we envisioned this, we act on it, and we did the things that was necessary to make us one of the top contenders. You have to have big dreams. You have to push yourself. You have to get outside of your comfort zone. You can't just be a 9-to-5er and think you're going to be the best. You got to make sure, if that means getting up early and doing some research and doing some work and preparing those accounts, then get up and do it. If that means missing out on Netflix for an hour, shoot, then do it. If that means skipping lunch for the week, who cares? Do it. Push yourself. If that dream and that goal and a vision is top of mind to be the best seller, then you need to dream and act and do the things that require you, the things that are typical of one of the best sellers. Number 5, Oprah was selfless. Yes, sir, we all know this to be true. Oprah has given away tons and tons and tons of money. You have all seen the example or the gif where Oprah has her hands spread out and the mic, and she's yelling and she's like, "You get a car, you get a car," because she's giving away these cars on her show and things of that nature. And I'm sure there's some endorsement that she gets with that, but Oprah is willing to give. She has organization. One of the organization is for young girls in South Africa. And one of the stories of this gal, she was sharing how tough her life was and how difficult it was and how Oprah gave her meaning. And this organization that she has gave her purpose. And it was emotional. And just hearing this example and this story, you can just feel that it was a genuine thing that Oprah did. She just really wanted to help these girls who were in a tough situation, because she was in a situation where she was abused as well. And it tugs at your heartstrings and it makes you want to be better. In fact, Oprah is one of the top celebrities that has donated to charity. She has donated hundreds of millions of dollars. And these are causes, like I've mentioned, that are close to her heart. One example that was recent was last year in 2019. She had gone to Tyler Perry's studios celebration. He was opening the Tyler Perry studios. And she stopped by Morehouse College and announced that she was donating $13 million to the school. The donation will go solely to the Oprah Winfrey Scholars Program that she helped create back in 1989. And check this out, about 600 students have been educated through the program. Her scholarship program at Morehouse helps to educate men who attend the all-black historic college that was established 150 years ago. Amazing. She's willing to give, she's willing to do, she has made it, and she wants to help a lot of people behind her to make it as well. So how does this apply to you as a B2B sales rep? I think sometimes we feel that we have to give things with a string attached to it, that if we help someone, we help a colleague, we help somebody in a different industry, or maybe somebody within our industry, maybe we help a competitor or whatnot, we feel that we have to get a string attached. I've had situation where I've given a prospect came to me and they wanted to do business with us, but that I couldn't do business for them. I wasn't a fit for what they were looking for. However, I was able to refer them to someone else. And I didn't do it with a string attached that, oh, they're going to give me a kickback on money, or they're going to give me a referral fee or a finder's fee or whatnot. I just really wanted to help the prospect to find the person who can best help them. And I think we need to do more of that. Here's why. When you act selflessly, things all of a sudden start open up for you. Doors start to appear that you didn't know was there, and you start to receive your own benefits. Next thing you know, you start to receive referrals. Maybe not from that person. Maybe they do send you a referral because you sent them a referral, but maybe someone else comes along and tells you that, we have somebody that could be best fit for your company. But opportunities will start coming your way. And I'm a firm believer in that. You give and you will receive. Bob Burg has a book, and the concept is this endless referral mentality. And I want you guys to go back in the show notes and check out Bob Burg. The book is called The Go-Giver, but he is a phenomenal individual, local here to South Florida. And he embodies this principle of giving, of being selfless. He give a lot of his time to go and speak, and sometimes not getting paid for that, just because he want to help out the community. I invited him to come to a college that I'm on a board of, and in the business program. And he selflessly gave up time on a Saturday morning and came out and spoke to these students, a lot of these people who were trying to start off their career and get into the right direction. But he's received many different blessings and opportunities, not from this particular situation per se, but the simple fact is his name got out there. People bought his book. And then others heard about him, and he's received many different paid gigs and have a lot of large clients all throughout the world. That's Mr. Bob Burg. Be like him. Look for ways that you can be a go-giver. Do the same thing like Oprah Winfrey. Look for ways to give back to your prospects, to your clients. Be selfless. Might send them a gift card on their birthday. Might give them some kind of gift when they receive a promotion. Any of these things you can do, and you will stand out. But the key is not to do it for any recognition. It's just to do it because you care for people. Like we started off this episode, Oprah was vulnerable. She was able to connect with individuals. I want you to build influence in your community like Oprah did or is doing. I encourage you to go back and listen to this episode. This was a long one. We went over a lot of great insights, but I want you to improve. I want you to be a better B2B sales rep. That's why you're listening to this podcast. That's why we're here. Look for opportunities to be selfless. Look for opportunities to help others, even if you're not going to get anything in return. I want to thank you for listening to this whole episode. We discuss 5 principles that make Oprah Winfrey one of the best sellers in history. 1, she's relatable and knows how to build strong relationship. She's vulnerable. Number 2, she is creative and willing to act. Number 3, she works hard. Number 4, she thinks big and push herself. And then number 5, she's selfless. I want you to be better in your craft as a sales rep. I want you to be able to be one of those top performers in your company, in your industry. I want you to be able to thrive. I know you can. I know you can succeed. Listen, if somebody else is doing it, why can't you? Why can't you be as successful? Why can't you be better than them? Of course you can. I want you to be that individual. I want you to be able to find more of those ideal customers easily. I want you to have that process down. I want it to become smooth for you. I want you to be a magnet where your prospects come towards you because of all the hustle and hard work you're doing. I want you to be able to know what to say and be able to have those questions down pat and always improve and to be an awesome listener, to be able to create value. I want you to be that individual that can take a deal that seems like it's going nowhere and to make it into something that blossoms and is amazing. I know you can do that. I want you to be able to naturally close more deals. But most importantly, I want to challenge you each and every single day to go out and do big things. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.